And welcome to Women Tourism. It's May 12th, 2022, and our topic today is International Perspectives on Tourism. And we have a broad cross-section of women that are going to give us an idea of the challenges, the strategies, the struggles, the success stories, the hope. We're going to hear a little bit about everything to do with women and tourism around the world today. My name is Broda, and I'm your moderator today. And a little bit about me is I'm not directly involved in the travel industry, other than I travel a lot, and I've been making travel television shows for 35 years. So I've visited a lot of countries, and I've experienced many of these issues that people will be talking about today. And it has arisen in me a concern about this. And I have been so proud of the women that I've met. And a lot of them we don't see as tourists when we're visiting these places, but they're there. They are our heroes that we're going to meet today, 9 or 10 of them that we're going to meet. I would also like to say that this is on tourismwebinar.com, but you can also catch it on Facebook and Instagram. So you can hear a lot about women in tourism that way. Now, Reza, I understand we have some acknowledgements before we begin.
Yes, thank you very much, B, for moderating, and it's quite early morning. I know you had a very difficult flight yesterday from San Francisco, just getting back. Took you many hours. Thank you for doing this. Also, a very special thanks to our speakers, and especially Ms. Mariana Oleskiv, and she's from Kiev. We know it's a very difficult time for you. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, all other speakers and everybody is viewing. We have also a few honorable guests. Dr. Taleb Rafai is here, the former Secretary General of UNWTO. Thank you so much for being always here. You are part of our family. And of course, Minister Dorji Daradul.
Thank you so much.
The Minister of Tourism of Bhutan, and he has written a book which is quite related to the women empowerment. And if you don't mind, ladies first, we let the Minister Daradul to say a few words from the most happy country in the world, because finally we need that in such a difficult time. Please, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reza and Bio, for this introduction, and also distinguished ladies here, and the other distinguished gentlemen also here. A very good evening from Bhutan. As Mr. Dr. Reza has put up, from a land of happiness. And I work in the tourism. Just a small correction. I'm not the minister. I am the Director General of the Tourism Council of Bhutan. It's a government organization. And thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. It's such a big honor and opportunity to listen to the distinguished women panelists later on. And just to say a few words, yes, I definitely believe now women has always been played a key role in all walks of life, but even especially in tourism also, even coming to Bhutan, such a small country, here also I think women has been playing a very key role in taking forward tourism, and especially now in the midst of COVID and climate crisis, and when you're talking about sustainable tourism, so therefore we are talking about now wellness and well-being tourism as we move to post-COVID-19. So that even makes the role of women in tourism even more, because when you talk about sustainability, when you talk about wellness, well-being, I think women can definitely play a much bigger role there. So we really look forward to this. And earlier, Dr. Reza was also mentioning something about my book. So this is something that I just wanted to share with you. I published a book, a novel named as Escape's Awakening. Of course, it's a story based in Bhutan. But after having written that book, I still consider the biggest compliment that I've received so far in my life is once that book was published, some of the readers have actually questioned if I was really a man, because the book was all about women And it looks like I have really been able to tell a story from a woman's point of view. So they were really questioning if I was really a man. So that I would always consider as the biggest compliment so far in my life. So thank you very much for this. And I really look forward to listening to all the distinguished ladies here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Please continue.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to mention that 2,500 people are already watching us on our various platforms. So this is a topic of tremendous interest. I'd also like to mention and acknowledge that I see Ben Sherman has joined us. He, of course, is the head of WINTA, which is the World Indigenous Tourism Alliance, which is also very much a friend of this group, which is a wonderful group indeed, and it is growing. So,
thank you, Bea. Thank you.
It's nice to see you, Ben, as always. There's going to be some speakers, and on this platform, you'll also find their PowerPoint presentations or videos, or just all of the supporting material of what they're speaking about. So it's all there on the website. It's not disappearing. It'll be there forever. And in fact, on that subject, we've approached a lot of difficult topics in this forum in the past, such as racism, abuse against women, war. All of this has been covered. So if you look back at tourismwebinar.com and look at some of the different webinars that have taken place in the past, you can find out a great deal more about that. And before my first introduction, I'd also like to say that there's a great team, like we were saying here, a wonderful organization of people, of women that are building a strong team. We've got one in the Middle East with women like Dr. Rafa Haddad, and the University of Bahrain with Ms. Abir Abu Sulayman of Saudi Arabia, who will be speaking later. So a nice group joining in the Middle East. And as well, womentourism.org is another platform that's developing as an offshoot of this, where you can find videos and PowerPoints and information. And in fact, there's been a wonderful 20-minute video that's been produced, and it is called The Underrepresentation of Women in Cryptocurrencies in the Travel and Tourism Industry. So afterwards, at the end of this, when you look at these speeches and information, you can find that. So without any further ado, I would like to start with our first speaker today, and by saying too that all of the women today are truly heroes. These are people with boots on the ground like you wouldn't believe, such as my first guest today is Mariana Oleskiv, who's in Kyiv. And she's the president of State Agency for Tourism Development of Ukraine. And she, I'm sure, has a lot to tell us today. Please, Ms. Mariana.
Good morning or afternoon, evening, depends in which country are you now. Yes, I'm in Ukraine, in Kyiv. It's much safer now than it was, of course, 2 months ago. We are, going back to life, and restaurants start opening. People sit on the streets. Sometimes you think that probably maybe the war is far. I can show you the view from my window just to understand. Here is the city. You see it? Yeah, just cars.
Beautiful.
Yeah, driving. And but yes, we still, it's the thing that when you live in some kind of I don't know, we are as human beings, we everything seems completely unnormal. When you live in this situation, then you kind of learn how to live and to work in that. So basically, for women, it's a these are very challenging times, not only in tourism, but in general, because they are responsible also in many cases when they have kids, for their kids. And in Ukraine, we had a lot of people who left the country, and in Kyiv, the city that had around 5 million citizens, now is more than 2 million in the city. So we understand that more than half population of the city had fled the country or the city to these more safe regions. And of course, in tourism industry, mostly women are those who work in tourism. And tourism industry is also one of the first to suffer, because the last what people do normally
Ariane, you're in Kiev. You're in Kiev.
In Kiev, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm in Kiev.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Then the least thing we do is we travel. And of course, women are those who suffer when we have some challenges and we have some conflicts, wars, other disasters, because their jobs are more sensitive in the industry. And at the moment, we see also the strength of women. In Ukraine, women of tourism are doing so many different things at the moment, which you cannot call exactly tourism. A lot of them work as volunteers with organizing humanitarian aid to the hot points. In Kiev, when we were surrounded by Russian troops, a lot of women were helping to bring food to the troops that were defending the city, to the older people, and actually a lot from them were from tourism industry. Also, they were trying to help evacuating people, especially the most sensitive ones, kids from the hospitals. A lot of kids had cancer diseases. They had to be evacuated together with their mothers. And of course, this transportation and later these hubs for people that can, when they move from one point to another, there was a big help of hospitality industry, not only in Ukraine, but in many neighboring countries. Last 2 weeks ago, I was in EU from a business trip to the UNWTO General Assembly, and I went this path of refugee in some kind of a way, because we don't have flights. So there are no flights now in Ukraine. Our airspace is closed. So I had to travel by train to the first town in Poland, and then to switch to another train to go to Warsaw. And then I took a flight from Warsaw to Madrid. So on this way, I met so many women, and actually accidentally 2 of them were from hospitality industry. And, you know, the first thing they were looking for was job. And almost a month it took for them to find a proper job, and they were traveling from one Polish city to another Polish city to work in a restaurant there. And most of them, they are waiting. Actually, there were 7 women, and only one was thinking about maybe she will find her own way and her own life in some of EU country, but 6 were waiting for the moment when they can come back to Ukraine, to their motherland. And this problem with job creation is one that we actually have seen as one of the big ones, because a lot of women, they are with kids in another country or in another region far from their home, because maybe their home is already destroyed. And again, Ukraine now is showing this kind of, for me, it's, I see it, I hope there will be no more wars in the world, but probably, unfortunately, because of many people that doesn't have this mind of peace, there will probably be maybe more wars. But this example of Ukraine, where we have a lot of attention worldwide, we need to use and see how we deal in such kind of situations in the future that might happen in any country. So what we were trying to do now is creating the resource, like a website about job offerings for people, for at the moment Ukrainian refugees or the people who had to temporarily move from one region to another in our industry, in hospitality industry. We'll be happy if you could then later, all of you, spread this information in your countries. Mostly here will be the neighboring countries that will, I guess, offer more of these jobs. But if this project is successful, then later we can share this experience and do it like to make it bigger and making it worldwide, because we know a lot of situations that happen. Sometimes there are some natural disasters or any other type of conflicts and wars, where people have to leave their country and they don't know how to find a proper way to organize their life. And again, for women is always a big problem, because they have also kids that they have to take care of. Because in Ukraine, men stay in the country to defend it, and women can leave the country with their kids. And this project, I hope that after it's already launched, we will see how it works, and then we can share more of this and having such a project. Also, I think that for women in our industry and also in other industries, it's important to have some platforms for their for their education and for language, maybe sharing language skills, because when they have to leave for some reasons, their homeland, not all of them know enough of English or any other language. And if we create such a platform, that could be also useful and interesting. And if we didn't start this project yet, but it was just an idea we've discussed with a couple of women's organizations.
Mariana, I just have one final question for you, because unfortunately we're running out of time.
Yes, that's it.
And this is very good information, but just a very quick answer. For the consumer, for somebody who wants to travel to Ukraine, as things lift up, where is a realistic place one could find the real situation of where they can go and what they can do as tourism opens up, hopefully soon?
Ukraine is a very beautiful country. We have a lot of tourism products. We have mountains, we have seaside, we have beautiful cities. You have everything here. But at the moment, we are in a wartime. Still people come. Some of the regions, most now, as we kicked out Russian troops surrounding Kyiv, only this front line moved to the east side of the country. But there are missile attacks risks in all parts of the country, but then you need to go to the shelter when we have the siren. So basically, even now you can travel and go to the places. So for this kind of people who want some adventure, maybe it could be kind of an option. But in general, the life in some of the cities, western part of Ukraine, they go on as they go. So there is Lviv, western part Ukraine, which is UNESCO heritage site. There is a beautiful city of Kyiv, our capital. Many possibilities for tourism. Just we are waiting for the war to be over, and then we can open our doors again. And at the moment, we need to do something useful in the country that will help our victory, and at the same time it will keep people busy and not lose their jobs and not to lose their hope for the future life.
Well, Mariana, thank you so much, and I really do admire you. I think you're just doing a wonderful job. I'm completely Ukrainian on both sides all the way down the line, and we've been in Canada for quite a while now, but I just wonder how many of my relatives are still over there. And I think about you all the time with a great deal of optimism, because things are looking good. So thanks for being there. And we look forward to hearing a lot more from you.
We're waiting for you in Ukraine when the war is over, and you'll be our guest. We'll be happy to host you here.
Oh, thank you. I'll be there. So thank you. Our next speaker is the Academic Director and Clinical Associate Professor at the Jonathan M. Tisch Center of Hospitality in New York. So let us welcome now Professor Lynn Minaert with her views on women in tourism.
Thank you very much, Bea. Thank you, Reza, for the kind invitation. I'm absolutely delighted to be here, but in the unenviable position to follow Mariana and her account. I mean, how do you even follow a story like that, Mariana? I'm speechless, and I wish you all the very, very best. From my perspective, what I wanted to focus on, of course, very different situation. I'm based here in the US, and what I wanted to focus on is not maybe the heroes of tourism on the supply side, because there's a lot of women working in the tourism sector. I wanted to focus more on the role of women from the demand side, the role of women as, you know, the drivers of tourism, the drivers of people having tourism experiences. It's a role that's not often acknowledged, I think, because women are usually a driving force within tourism. In a lot of cultures, it is actually the women who drive vacation planning, the women who think about, you know, start the conversation, who maybe come up with options that the whole family will enjoy. Women actually make the bookings, get the packing together. It's the women who drive all this. And without women, you could argue there would be a whole lot less tourism in the world. However, it's not always an easy thing for women to do. Even here in the US, the wealthiest, you know, in some ways, wealthiest country in the world, there are some headwinds and some challenges that particularly women of color or women who are economically disadvantaged that they face. And the US is often seen, therefore, as a no vacation nation, as the nation where taking trips is not necessarily valued. So you have this stereotype of the US as this kind of view, right? So people who have a lot of things, who spend money, are very materialistic, but at the same time, people who don't necessarily take the time to enjoy vacations together. So the joke is often here, if you're in Europe, you're on your break from work, you don't look at email, you're not even expected to engage with email. But here in the US, I got to say, sometimes I feel obliged to put an out of office, even if I'm just off for the afternoon. So it's a very different culture, and one that has led to challenges, of course, for women wanting to have these experiences of bonding, education for the children, etc. There's different reasons for that. I think a lot of people, when they think of the US, they have this stereotype of everyone has a lot of money, but people don't make the time or they don't appreciate traveling. And I don't think it's quite as simple as that. It's not always low money barrier, high time barrier. For a lot of people, it's both barriers. A big thing that plays into that, and I think many people aren't aware of this, that the US is the only first world nation where there's no statutory minimum number of vacation days. In other words, your employer doesn't have to give you any paid vacation at all, not a single day. Now, that doesn't mean that many of us don't get paid vacations. We do, but it's not a requirement. So if you don't have paid vacation, how do you even think about participating in travel, right? Looking at this map, you see that even our neighboring countries aren't necessarily, for example, Mexico is only 1 to 5 days statutory minimum. You look at some of the European countries, there's 23 to 28 days. So in terms of tourism participation, it's a huge difference. Now, having said that, I don't want people to go away thinking nobody in the US gets vacation days. We do. It's only about 23% of the population who gets no paid vacation. You have to, of course, count people who have their own businesses in that as well. And then 22% get no paid holidays. So the term holidays in the US refers to religious holidays, bank holidays, national holidays, that kind of thing. So 22% of people don't get payment for those days as well. Basically, if you don't work, you don't get paid. So that is a challenge. Although on average, people get around 10 days of vacation days and 11 national holidays. So on average, people get around 21 days. You would say, okay, that isn't so bad, right? However, if you're a woman, you have to add to that there's no mandated paid maternity leave. So basically, if you have a baby, you're on your own in some cases, which is really challenging to then think about taking vacation time or even having the financial ability to take vacations. And all of this disproportionately affects low-income people, part-time workers, and women. So all of this means that it can be, even if you want to spend time together with your family, if you value it, that just the circumstances make it incredibly difficult for you to do so. And so here are some examples of quotes we collected during the annual US Family Travel Survey, which is something I run with the Family Travel Association. And you see, I think, these really illuminating quotes from women saying, well, maybe I have vacation time, but my husband doesn't. So whenever we go on vacation, he loses time and money, and that makes it challenging. Or other people say, well, you know, the economy is really bad right now. I don't want to risk my job taking time off work. So if I use vacation time, it's because the roads are, you know, snowbound, or my car has broken down, or maybe I'm ill. That's not really what we would call vacation time, right? That is hardly any time that you're going to use to take a trip. And I think then the quote on the right in the brown bubble sums it up pretty neatly. So time off doesn't always coincide with income level. Basically, if you have the time, I don't have the money. And when I have the money, I don't necessarily have the time because I have to keep working. So I'm saying this because I think this whole stereotype that in the US people don't care about vacations, it's probably exactly what a stereotype is. There is perhaps a grain of truth for some people, but there's also a big generalization going on there. And so this is what that has resulted in over the past couple of years. I said before, on average, right, people have 21 vacation days if you count their vacation from their employer and the official holidays. So I'm European. If we get 21 days, most of us will take 21 days. But you see that in the US, it hasn't actually evolved that way. In the 80s and early 90s, yes, people used to take their days. But then from the early 90s onwards, you see that there's a decline and people start leaving more and more vacation on the table, with a steep dip after 2008, right after the economic downturn, where people were only taking about 16 days, leaving 5 days on the table, not using them. That's a whole week of vacation that you're now not taking, either with your partner, with your family, however you want to travel. It's since edged up a little bit again. I think we're now at about 18 days, which is better than what it used to be, but we're still, you know, about half a week vacation removed from people taking their full days. So this work martyrdom, it plays a role, but for many people, it's also just the financial ability isn't there to participate in travel. So even if women are driving the ship, they don't necessarily have the means to participate. But I wanted to end on a more positive note in a sense, because I do feel that this attitude is changing and there's a big shift going on in the US, probably a lot of other countries after COVID, in how we approach work and the relationship of work versus the rest of our lives. So here on this graph, you see the number of people quitting their jobs like over time. And you see whenever there's a recession in the red bands, you see usually people don't quit their jobs very much because they're worried, right? If you're in a recession, you hold on to that job. You don't want to lose your income. However, look what happens during COVID. So you have a steep dip, right? When the pandemic first hits, people who have a job hold on to it because there's so much uncertainty. People don't want to let that income go. However, after that, look at how these resignation rates are shooting up and people are really taking the time to reevaluate their lives and the place that work holds in it. And women play a big role in that as well. I mean, think during COVID, they had to look after children, the schools were closed, maybe you lost your job. In the US, that means you now no longer have health insurance. This is all a very, very stressful time that makes you reevaluate that perhaps life is short and life isn't all about work and maybe we shouldn't give up everything for our employers. So you see that people are changing jobs in large numbers. People have called it now the great reshuffle instead of the great resignation, but I do think it's a tidal shift in this country in how we look at leisure and vacation time. So you see a lot of this kind of social commentary. It's meant to be a joke, but it also isn't quite a joke. When I was young, I was poor, but after decades of hard work, I'm no longer young. Kind of implying I'm still not doing financially as well as I could do. This rat race, this chasing possessions and money isn't necessarily making me very happy. And this big refocus now on experiences and time together. So what kind of changes in the workplace has this led to for women and for everybody? But it has impacted women disproportionately in terms of the benefits it might bring. We had a raise in the minimum wage. The minimum wage has now gone up to $15 an hour, which in some states really isn't very much. If you live in New York City, that's still not very generous, but it's better than what it used to be. A lot of employers are offering more flexibility in terms of being able to change your hours, in terms of being able to look after children when schools are closing, for example. And you have the work from home, which is a double-edged sword for women, of course, because on the one hand, it makes it easier to do childcare duties. On the other hand, it can make it harder because your children are there and you're also meant to work. You know, you have these double pressures, but most women seem to at least appreciate that work from home is an option when they have childcare needs. And then in the land of capitalism, unionization is coming back. I mean, Amazon is unionizing here in New York City. That is something none of us saw coming for sure. This idea of workers getting together and protecting their rights is in many countries, I know, entirely natural thing, but in this country, it's very much a change in attitude, which is which I believe is going to give these women we were talking about before much more support and stability in being able to participate in travel. And when I say travel, I don't necessarily mean 5-star cruises or trips around the world. Travel is as a way to just enjoy the region or the country where you live. Travel as a way to get together as a family. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I hope it gave you some insights into the US with all its wealth and also all its dearth in terms of time. It's been a pleasure being here, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much. These are some wonderful perspectives on the trends, and they're hot off the press because we're just post-pandemic now. So, and I think we could see that happening. I think it's actually a really good thing. I personally found a different workaround. I chose a profession where it seems like I'm on vacation all the time, making travel shows, or at least people think I am, but it's a lot more work than that, that's for sure. Thank you once again. It's nice to see where the US is at as well. Now, our next speaker may or may not be here, Sarah Dolnicar. Are you here? She is the editor-in-chief of Annals of Tourism Research, and she is a research professor at the University of Queensland in Brisbane, Australia. Are you here, Professor?
I just get a message from her that she has a family emergency and she's flying to Europe, so unfortunately she cannot be here. Maybe later, I have no idea.
Okay, that's what I heard, but she's an amazing woman, like all the women today. She's co-authored more than 300 refereed papers. She's got the ARC Laureate Fellowship. She's got the highest honor from the Republic of Slovenia on an expatriate Slovenian research in recognition of global excellence, impact, and knowledge transfer. So I'm not sure if she'll be here today, but whether she is or not, it's worth looking at our website afterwards to see her contact information and how to get in touch with her and find out more about what she's doing. So instead, our next speaker is Ms. Catherine Germier-Hamel, and she is the Chief Executive Officer of Destination Mekong, which covers, I believe, 7 different nations in Southeast Asia, and she's dedicated to sustainable tourism, local development in a variety of sectors, including tourism, hospitality, leisure, and environmental utilities, water, sanitation, all the things we need to be concerned about in travel today. So let's welcome Ms. Catherine Germier-Hamel.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And first, I would like to commend the courage of friends in Ukraine, fighting and being so courageous. And well, I think that for me, what I would like to focus on is about courage, the courage of women, but of course, men are courageous as well. But I really don't want to see women as victims, or I don't want to pity them today, especially because I think I really want to highlight the fact that we women in general are courageous and we are resilient. And I would say I'm not trying to make the difference, between men and women, because many times I tend to be gender blind. But at some point, when you are gender blind, you don't understand why. Why are these situations of inequalities, differences, and in some ways, travel is the fact that we are discovering new cultures, different, I would say, mindsets, and we tend to focus on differences when we travel. I've been an expatriate in Korea for 17 years now, about to relocate to Cambodia. And I think at some point I refocused on similarities because for me, the most important thing in my life is to probably reconcile my Western background and Asian background. I'm what people call Eurasian. And very early, I tried to focus on harmony rather than differences and conflicts. I tried to avoid the conflicts for a long time when I was a teenager, and probably thanks to the travel, I could solve many issues in my own, internal conflicts. So what I would like to do now is not create frustrations and point the fingers to those difficult situations for women. I think it's not only for women, it's for children, for men. But I want to focus on inspiration. I want to focus on those women who are, all of them, heroes. They are caretakers, they are change makers. And I think now we are living in a world where the new technologies can help us better understand our world. And we cannot say that we don't know, because we know. We have all those, ways of communicating, those channels. We cannot avoid, the truth. We need to be more sincere and frank. We need now to act. And I was reading an article this morning about, what's happening in Afghanistan for women. And I don't want, to create any controversies, but the article was saying, we don't want to save those women. We want to tell them that we don't abandon them. We cannot save everybody, but at least we need to care. And this is also what I try to do through tourism, because for me, tourism is a tool for local development. I created, before being CEO of Destination Mekong, a travel platform called Heroes. I'm not trying to sell the platform because it doesn't bring any money, but the point is that we need to change the mindset. Why heroes? Because the hosts are heroes. I wanted to put to refocus the travel experience on the host. And rather than talking about travel, I wanted to talk about hospitality, the art of hospitality, those people who are actually, the job of whom is to make you happy, to make sure that you have the best experience. And we know that the trends are saying now that people want more and more unique experience, authentic experiences, experiences closer to the locals, and most important, they want the benefits of tourism to go back to the local economies, and especially women and the youth. So I would say now we have those new technologies that can really help us create platforms to communicate better on situations that are unacceptable. Before we could say, I didn't know, but we know now. And so we need to do something about those situations. And at some point, this is what I do, the question I ask many times to students or people I'm working with, I just tell them, what's the purpose of your life? Why are you doing what you do? Sometimes, it can be depressing, to think about why am I doing that, because there is no why, but we all have a why. And probably this is also the role of Destination Mekong. We want to create impact. We want to create value. We don't want to lecture people. We don't want to point fingers and tell them this is good, this is bad. We really want to help them, you know, to build their capacities, to give them the power and the hope to believe in themselves, you know, because they need to, at some point, be the masters of their own lives. We are all masters of our own lives, but sometimes, you know, we just need some, it's not even a nudge, you know, we need someone to tell us, yes, you can. I know I'm not Barack Obama, but at some point, yes, together we can do something. And it's not about not having the power or not having the courage or not having, you know, the capacities or the right. Is taking the opportunities and telling yourself that, yes, you deserve the best for yourself. So I would say living in Korea helped me a lot, not only spiritually, because, you know, we have this Buddhist influence, also telling you that, you know, okay, I'm not talking about life is suffering, but telling you that you create through your thought, your life. And it helps you also to, sorry, I'm not an activist in Buddhism, but it helps you also, you know, to accept some things and to go further and to act. Also, it helped me a lot because women in Korea are very strong. Sometimes there is this tendency or this cliche saying that, oh, you know, Asian women, they are so, they don't have personality, they are always obeying. No, that's not true. You know, they are just playing the game. So we need to change the rules, I would say, so that women can also set the rules. I would say we need to change the mindset. We need to change the way the mothers educate their boys, because I was raised and educated in France. I was born in France, but the education by my mother, was kind of Confucianist, because, you know, my mother is half Vietnamese, half French, and there was a lot of injustice, unfairness. So I would say let's also educate our boys so that they are, yeah, they accept their feminine side. So you would say, what's the point with travel and tourism? Again, for me, travel and tourism are also a tool for empowerment and also to promote, you know, something that is more, you know, caring and more open to harmony. So I think I talked too much, so maybe that will be the conclusion. I really would like to focus on harmony rather than conflict. Even if, you know, I'm not no longer conflict avoider. On the contrary, but let's focus on what makes us, you know, similar. You know, we are all human beings, and I think the human nature is that we want to be happy. And in the end, I think travel and tourism can be an extraordinary tool to transform lives and to make people happy. So maybe I'm too positive, but we need sometimes, you know, positive people. I'm not naive, but I think, yeah, I really would like to inspire my sisters and all around the world and let them know that, well, I'm here for them in this life.
That's lovely. Thank you. It's a lovely and very feminine interpretation of tourism, which you don't hear often enough. And when I think about what you do, you're the CEO of Destination Mekong. That's a lot of countries. That's a lot of the world. And I think, knowing that you are the CEO, that it's in very good hands. And I would like to see your attitude. So thank you. Merci.
Merci.
Germier-Hamel. It's a pleasure to meet you. I just like to say at this point too, is we still have a number of speakers, but to hang in, because I know that sometimes the webinars can seem a little bit lengthy, but for example, our last speaker is on the ground in Chernobyl, and you're not going to want to miss that. But our next speaker is Ms. Ritchie, and she's the president of the World Federation of Tourist Guide Associations, and they have members in 90 different countries. So she has a lot of interpretation here too, from 90 countries. She's going to have to distill it into something for us. So in the next 10 minutes, let's hear from Ms. Ritchie.
Thank you very much, Ms. Broda, and to Mr. Reza as well for the invitation to speak today. As you know, we are tourist guides. We love to speak, so it's always an honor to represent our sector. I am a tourist guide in Cape Town in South Africa, and as mentioned, I also wear the hat of president for the World Federation. And I'm going to really take these 10 minutes and take some time to take you through some really good stories as well as the challenges our sector faces in tourism. So as you can imagine, the last number of years have really hit our sector as a profession, and we really are one of the last to activate in tourism in many countries. Our profession as tourist guides have always had challenges even before the pandemic. And what the pandemic really did was highlight those challenges and presented some opportunities as well. In the words of Barbara Masniak, an author, she said, "Sometimes the darkest challenges, the most difficult lessons, hold the greatest gems of light." And I do believe that tourism is the gem for women empowerment. Not all jobs in tourism allow for empowerment of women, but a tourist guide, becoming a tourist guide actually does. It's one of the vehicles for women empowerment, and it is a profession where you can use language, leadership, and business skills as part of sharing your passion for your country and culture. So we really do believe that that is one of the gems within tourism as well. So tourism can be a driver towards economic independence for women when given a chance. And in many of our country members, statistically speaking, female tourist guides are in the majority within the profession, even though there are still barriers. So these barriers are also important for us to recognize, and they include religious beliefs and social traditions, as well as culture around the traditional views of family. And the religious beliefs is really an important thing, because in many it's actually thought with the religious beliefs and with the traditional views of family, you cannot be a tourist guide. But that's been proven to actually not be true, because a woman can work in a manner where they adapt and they satisfy their religious and societal traditions and beliefs. So it can be done. In some cases, women don't have access to the support and training they may need. So considering the barriers to entry and addressing these are actually crucial before we can even introduce steps towards empowerment. And that is so important as well. So our role as tourist guides has been identified as one of the ways to contribute to sustainable growth and development, as well as spreading growth into the rural economies, and doing this through using the local communities. This can be fairly broad and many ways to do this, but really the smallest step can lead to a large impact. So the smallest thing is such as visiting a local craft maker, introducing a storytelling initiative, even eating with a local, are really small steps that can be taken to empowerment in rural areas. A crucial element of focus of empowerment for women is to drive a future of self-sufficiency built on the foundations of education, health, and employment. And tourism does really play a pivotal role in achieving these objectives. And I think we can also refer to what's already out there and how we can build on this. And this is, for example, the UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and as well as the 5th SDG, which is the Sustainable Development Goal. So this speaks to not only the why, but the how. So let's assume you've qualified as a tourist guide. And of course, this in itself is a success for those ladies who manage it. But what is next? So I'm going to take you through not only our challenges, but let's see some success stories and how we can actually move forward with encouraging some action items and speak to the field of professional female tourist guides. So collaboration is something we always encourage. We can't work in isolation to achieve our goals of transformation and empowerment in our sector. For example, we saw in Madagascar, their focus was on ecotourism, and that was a result of a collaboration between a strong local guides association with stakeholders. And they basically took a percentage of their revenue stream and shared this amongst the local communities, as well as women-driven projects. So the benefits that speak to the tourist guide also speak to the tourist and actually influence their decision-making process. And this is also crucial to promote the empowerment of women. In Kenya, we had the Maasai tourist guides who refer to themselves as the custodians of global heritage. They support their villages and their women enterprises with their income as well. The sad part, however, is that there are only approximately 100 tourist guides in that area, and they service millions of tourists per annum. So an intervention for them is really necessary to provide skills and training to bring in more tourist guides to assist them, and then also to remain a sustainable career path, because that is also a challenge. It's all good and well, we empower and we educate and we provide skills, but then we don't have that sustainable career path for that. We then also have lobbying, which is so important, and being part of an organization and an association representing our sector, tourist guides, or any part of tourism, it's such a big sector, is important. So for example, we had a female-only tourist guide association, very rarely recognized in their country, but they campaigned and lobbied with tour operators to offer something as simple as female guides to have separate rooms to the male guides. And this is something we all assume happens, but unfortunately for them not. And this is evidence that the more voices, the louder the message. So that is also, lobby, collaboration, and your voice can also be heard, and that empowerment just grows. So consider sometimes, again, the simplest action could make the world of difference to empowering women, especially in a rural landscape. Something like offering and introducing an off-road four-wheel driving course to the local women who are already active. A simple thing, a skill they can learn, but the potential to lead to so much more. Genuinely opens up the doors for them. If we also take into consideration the new trends, and you mentioned the trends and for the travel industry and the tourists, and for us working with the tourists, it's always important that we also keep in mind what the trends are, what the types of tourists are, and their expectations. So looking and working with the destinations, with the tourism officials, looking at those new niche markets that have come out. And solo female travelers is one of the biggest groups that are coming out now post-pandemic. Female-only group tours, female digital nomads, and all of these people want to travel with a female tourist guide, a female driver, work with female tour operators. And this creates its own little niche market of empowering all those who already are existing in the tourism world and working in the tourism world. It just creates those opportunities. So we need to find those opportunities and work with them. Again, we look at the unique opportunities that we see coming through transformation within the tourism ecosystem. And transformation in tourist guiding also really reinforces things such as the community tourism through various platforms available to us. And two such platforms are International Tourist Guide Day celebrations and International Women's Day. Both of these are opportunities for us to basically amplify and use them to empower women in our sectors as well. In 2019, we saw the tourist guides in Zanzibar celebrate International Women's Day by creating awareness around the profession and launching a short video. So this was also quite exciting in 2019. The Ugandan Women's Birders Group, so yes, there is a group dedicated to birding only given by female tourist guides. They also launched their nature-based tours in 2019, using those platforms to create awareness. And then lastly, As mentioned earlier, transformation and empowerment and a change in our sector won't take place on its own. And we really need to look at the different arms that speak to our sector. And that is the high level approach. So we're working with governments, encouraging legislation changes, and then of course, working with our destinations and promoting these aspects of tourism. Additional mediums to empower also include mentorship, engagement, networking, and last but probably the most important, changing the mindset. So also changing the mindset of the tourists, changing the mindset of those working in tourism already, and some women also changing the mindset of women working within the tourist guiding field and within tourism. So I think starting small is probably a positive way to look at this. Look in your own backyard and learn from those who have succeeded before you, and stay open to other opinions and perspectives. So I think, B, I'm going to end with another little quote. I love my little quotes because they say so much in such a short sentence. But diversity is having a seat at the table, inclusion is having a voice, and belonging is having that voice be heard. So thank you so much for that opportunity to speak today. And to my esteemed panelists, we are all on a path of continuous learning, and I really do thank you for your valuable insights today. And it's lovely seeing Mr. Rafied with us today, because he is a wonderful supporter of our federation and of our tourist guiding sector. So Mr. Talib, it's very nice to see you join us today.
Anushka, Ritchie, thank you so much for your perspectives. I'd have to say that over 35 years, as I was mentioning, of doing the job I do, it really is those tour guides that have made all the difference. And also there's a huge difference between then and now of the professionalism of tour guiding. And back then there was some countries that really took it seriously, and it required a lot of education and training to be a tour guide. And other countries, they gave it to someone who had no experience in the job world at all. And now it's coming together to be a real wonderful profession. And as someone who makes TV shows, I get a third from the tourist board and a third from the tour guides and a third from what I research afterwards. So tour guiding is so important. I can't even imagine being in, say, a country like Vietnam without somebody guiding me through all of the stuff, all of the chaos. You need a tour guide. So my hat's off to tour guides everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you, B. It is a profession that is being more and more acknowledged, and it's something we really advocate for tourists. Take that, get that specialized experience. And it's also, we are safety ambassadors as well. There's so much more to just the fun stuff. As you mentioned earlier, we look like we're on holiday every day, but we're not. We do so much more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alyssa.
It was a nice acknowledgement for Talib Rifai, who we all appreciate so much, your support constantly. Our next speaker is another hero, like all of our women today are. Ms. Abir Abu Sulayman actually was the first Saudi female tour guide in Saudi Arabia since 2018. She's been working in tourism since 1999, is fluent in 3 different languages, Arabic, English, and French. And she is someone that likes to revive historical areas. So let's hear for the next 10 minutes from Ms. Sulayman.
I don't see her here, unfortunately. Maybe, but I was just talking to her 5 minutes ago. I don't know what happened. So maybe we go to the next speaker.
Okay, we'll go back to her. All right. Our next speaker is Ms. Sajana Bhadel, and she's the founding president of Girls Empowered by Travel Nepal and is a licensed trekking guide. So we're continuing on the same kind of pattern here. I love her belief too. Travel means to me to explore within myself, to share love, to accept the challenge, and let the world to shape me, which is what travel is certainly all about. Ms. Bhadel, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you so much for this platform. To all the students, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here for this international platform. I'm grateful. So before I start, I would like to start with a small video. So will that be a problem?
No, go ahead. Oh my God. So hello and namaste. This is Ms.Aslamova Bhadel, and good evening, everyone. It is like 7:50 here in Nepal. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So I'm from the land of Himalayas and birthplace of Lord Gautam Buddha, and co-founder and president of Girls Empowered by Travel Nepal, and also the founder of Explore Hub Nepal, a locally owned travel agency that organizes the unconventional travel packages. And I'm very delighted to represent my country, Nepal, and Girls Empowered by Travel Nepal in this international webinar. And Girls Empowered by Travel Nepal is a non-profit organization that really empowers the girls and young women to travel, and that really enhances their leadership skills, provide resources and trainings to be a community leader. So thank you so much, Reza, for giving me this wonderful opportunity, because I'm here to share like the real scenario, what's going on in Nepal from the ground level, and also showcase what's going on in the tourism sector of Nepal. Hope I will wrap everything in the 10 minutes. So before jumping in, like how the tourism sectors look like, in 1953, when Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay did successful ascent of Mount Everest, then after the tourism starts in Nepal, and in 1960 and 1970s, like so many hippies come to Nepal as marijuana and hashish was really legal, and eventually our Nepal government banned that marijuana and hashish, and And it really turned out the cultural exploration and adventure tourism in Nepal. And Nepal is such a beautiful country with fascinating landscapes, with hundreds of mountains. Like there are 1,000 mountains, so many 8,000 mountains. And we have like these beautiful monuments and temples, and we have like 123 ethnic groups, and which is proudest thing for us. In 1998, our Nepal government tried to bring this strategy to strengthen our Nepal tourism. And second time in 2011, we tried to bring more tourists. In 2020, we're just supposed to hit like to bring more 2 million tourists. There was strict lockdown, and following the travel restrictions, we could not meet our target. And as you know, tourism is the 4th largest industry in Nepal, and it really contributes like 8% of our GDP and employing like 300,000 people. And it is like 11.5% of person all total in this industries in Nepal. But like while we are talking about this is the 4th largest industry in Nepal, where is the women? Where is the women? And actually, before the tourism opened, like women were so involved in the mountain tourism in 1920s and 1930s, because European countries were trying to summit the Mount Everest and 8,000 above mountains like Kanchenjunga, Annapurna, but it could not happen until 1953, but women were involved in the mountain tourism since 1920s and 30s, which is not visible in the report, but this is the real fact. And actually, according to our UNDP and SIDA Tourism Workforce Survey 1990, only 10.2% of direct female employment are in the tourism sector, and which is very low female participation in the tourism sector. Women are involved, but mostly in the informal sectors like housekeepers, cooking in small hotels and lodges, and they are skilled, and sadly they are illiterate. They are doing the illiterate jobs, which is really low paid, and it's very sad. And our National Economic Census 2018, 39.2% are female managers, and 30.2% are owners. And it means that women have to be owner to be the manager, where 60.7% are like male managers. It is a huge gap of gender equality in tourism industry, and several plannings and programs have been introduced to bring women participation in tourism sectors, but lack of follow-ups and monitoring strategies discourage the women involved in the tourism industry. So that's why like we Girls Empowered Travel Nepal came in existence. It is a solely non-profit organization that brings the meaningful travel. Like meaningful travel means where you bring your skills, where you bring your open mindset to learn from that communities rather than you give. It's more about learning from that communities, and also giving back to that communities what you can give your expertise, sharing, respecting their cultures, their languages. So that's what we have been doing since 2017, bringing the young women from marginalized communities, providing them opportunities to travel. That's what we do. And Sustainable Tourism Initiative under the Girls Empowered Travel Nepal, we have this project, Sustainable Tourism Initiative, where we just saw the video of small village. I could not show it properly because of the technical glitches. I apologize for that, but that video is really special because right after the earthquake, we went to this small village, which is northern part of Nepal, and let's say from capital city of Kathmandu, it is like 7 hours in drive and 3 hours steep like climbing up. So we went to this village and we found the people are so close and they are so hospitable. Their hospitable is so nice and they're so innocent. And the village was totally devastated because of the earthquake 2015. And after talking with people, and women were like really open to the guest, we thought to provide the trainings like homestay training. Homestay is the home where the guests are served as a family members, and they eat whatever the family members eat, and they got to know the living experiences of local people. That's what we did in 2019, giving them the homestay trainings for a week. And it's so amazing to see like the 14 women were involved in the training for 1 week training, and after the training they opened the homestay 5 homestays were running very nicely before the COVID, but the COVID hit very hard that village, and male members have to go to the foreign land for the income sources, and women and only the old people are left there. So we also thought to bring the service learning programs through our organization. It's called service learning, where the national and international volunteers go to that place, explore their places, connect with the people, learn from their cultures, and at the end, whatever they can give, they will give through their expertise, like waste management program, so or like hospitality management, whatever the national or international volunteers they can give, they will give, and they will be hosted by the local people. So at the same time, the local people will get some money, and at the same time, these national and international volunteers will get to know different things about these communities. So there will be like win-win situation. The plan were brought in 2019, but it's still in the process because we are trying to have more foreigners or national visitors in September, October. So, you know, like Nepal has a high potential for the adventure sports, tourism, and high demand of female guides in the market, but the travel agencies, trekking expedition companies are very obligated like to hire the international guides, and that's why like we still lack that intense wilderness course. Still, being me as a trekking guide, I still feel the lack of the courses, the outdoor education. So through our outdoors project, like helping the girls or young women to create their own adventure or be involved in these outdoor activities, we are trying to give them training like how to do the camping, trekking, like map course and ice climbing and wall climbing. So hopefully these 2 projects will help local women to be involved in the tourism activities and be sustainable in the one family members, or be like a breadwinner. So the things are slowly moving on after the COVID, and we in this March and April we are getting like 40,000 or 50,000 a month of the visitors in Nepal. But still, the current scenario of female guide like me still go with the different problems. Like just like a few months ago, I went for the trekking, and I always had the discussion or disputes with the owners, because while there is a high peak season, the female guides all the guides have to share the big dining hall, the common hall, and which is not safe for us. Like we do not feel secure with all those guides, because you never know what will happen. So there is always the question mark of our safety, of our dignity there, and the owner or the whoever are there in the lawmakers always ignore our situations or problems, because there are no more women representatives there to speak our voices, or there are no large number of women doing this kind of adventure tourism. So that's why there is like less women participation in adventure tourism. That really that really hits our income sources. And still, we also feel the lack of safety in terms of like night buses while we have to go with the guest. Because we are not equipped with the resources, and we still need the trainings and that outdoor education. So me, from my organization, Girls Empowered Travel Nepal, and my Explore of Nepal company, we are trying to bring more women so that it creates the travel community that provides the safe space for everyone who ever feel very safe to start their career in this tourism industries. And Nepal has still such a beautiful country, beautiful places to offer for adventure lovers or cultural lovers or community lovers. You know, there are still inaccessible but exotic destinations of hidden trails, and still outdoor little activities or trainings should be given like to women, and where there is like there will be equal share or profit distribution in the communities. And other thing that is hit by is like climate change, which is an alarming state, and it is like we really need to work hard on the climate change. Women, children, and old people are really vulnerable to the climate change, and they are exposed to the harms of the climate change. Snows are melting, heavy rainfall are there, or no rainfall, or it results that migration, discontinuity of the education of girls, rise of the kinds of violence. And one of my friend who is in the far western region, it's in the western region in Upper Dolpo, their houses are made of the mud, like the rooftop of houses made by the mud. And there used to be snow in the winter or summers. There used to be little snow or a very small rainfall. But these days, due to the climate change, they are getting the heavy rainfall, and it really deteriorates and weakens their houses structures. So female and children are left in the mountains region, and they are more vulnerable in this climate issues. And other thing is like the food are very properly stored in the Himalayan region, but these days, because of the climate change, the food are wasted and easily decayed by the worms due to the global warming. So global warming has created many changes in lives and environment. You never know, like if you get to see the snow in the mountains today, you might not able to see that snows in those mountains within 10 years. There is a frequent fluctuations in the climate, in the weather, and beautiful landscapes can be like, it can disappear in any time. So this is the high time to travel, but also to follow the responsible travel policies and start the campaign against the climate change. And adaptation policies should be introduced before it is too late. And it is an urgent call to fight everyone from your ground level, wherever you are. It is the time to start your voice or to act against the climate change, so we can make this better place. We can make this world a better place to live in peace and harmony. So that's all. And this is the message from Himalayan region. And thank you so much again for having me. I'm very grateful to share my knowledge and experiences. Over to you.
Sayana, thank you so much. I think you should get with Alushka, with the tour guide organization, because it sounds like there are a lot of challenges in Nepal. In fact, we should probably do a webinar just on Nepal with all of those issues that you mentioned, because there are a lot of them. And it's a place I really want to go to as well. It's one of the ones I haven't been. So I'm going to look you up.
I look forward to host you and see around the beautiful places of Nepal. My pleasure. It will be my pleasure.
Video was just beautiful, and I'd love to see all of that. So thank you so much. And thank you for all of your passion, because I know that you're making changes over there.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Our next speaker is Ms. Mona Naffa, and she is the one that introduced Expedia and TripAdvisor to Jordan. So Jordan tourism is her passion, and of course the pandemic has changed things there as in everywhere. So let's hear the latest from Ms. Mona Naffa.
Great, thank you, B. Hi Talib. Talib is another Jordanian, and once again, a advocate for tourism. Tourism becomes a passion. It's in our soul in this part of the world. What I'm going to talk about today is a little bit of the trials and tribulations of tourism for females in Jordan, but using innovation and creativity and education to turn that around. I'm an Arab American, and culturally, tourism is challenging for females in Jordan. Jordan is a male-dominant country, and so a lot of family members aren't too keen to have their daughters in this sector, though things are changing. The more women are in tourism, the lessen the barrier of the culture. I want to share a story about myself. Many years ago, I was offered a job in the hotel industry, and due to my strong Jordanian family members, they were really discouraged to have me join the sector. Fast forward, here I am in Jordan, an advocate for tourism, hospitality, and the hotel sector. Things change. During COVID, Jordan was impacted quite hard. Our airport was closed for 6 months, thus no tourism. Many businesses had to shut down. And as many of the ladies have mentioned, we were all impacted significantly and really the last to recover. Fast forward, Jordan is open. Employees are back working. They're excited. They're embracing and valuing their jobs. They missed the sector. Jordan is seeing tourism grow, though tourism now is coming back more individual. We're not seeing the large tourists come in with the big buses, but we're seeing a diverse tourist coming via, as we say, FIT. So individuals, small groups, and tourists from now all over the world. And we are going to miss our Ukrainian tourists. We had many Ukrainians join us in the winter season. Jordan is a haven for our beautiful weather in the winter, but they'll be back. Another impact to tourism is our high unemployment rate. In Jordan, we do have a high unemployment rate, and in tourism, that unemployment rate is even higher. So what we're doing to help ease and improve employment is through education. Destination Jordan is a platform that I built after Expedia, and within our platform, we educate. A lot of our education is in entrepreneur skills, a creativity and courage, leadership, the English language. It is very important to communicate to our tourists through English. We're finding here in Jordan, we've got a lot of home-based businesses. A lot of women are doing crafts, mosaics, embroidery, but we need to educate those women to reach that traveler. So part of our initiative with the YWCA, maybe some of you know the YWCA on the platform, a wonderful institution. We also share their values in empowering youth, women, and the vulnerable community. So education is a strong component that we are working on post-COVID. Another challenge we have here in Jordan, which we hope to improve, is the lack of women on boards. And what that translates, as Lynn was saying from New York, women are the ones who make the travel reservations. Women are the figurehead in the household who plan the trips. Unfortunately, here in Jordan, we're not seeing too many women on boards that regulate policies and procedures. Possibly Talib can help with that in the near future. So what we've done with Destination Jordan is to take a lot of these negatives and turn them into positives. What Jordan has the ability to do now is to be creative. We are in a position as a small country to capture that traveler with unique and exciting experiences here in Jordan. So we are advocates of creating niche and creative programs. So the team and I have been very creative in a few programs. And one of those, we call it Taking Jordan by Storm. Jordan is known recently to be a Hollywood backdrop, especially in our beautiful landscapes of Wadi Rum and Petra, for Hollywood filming to be done here in Jordan. So the team and I have created Taking Jordan by Storm. And what that is a film tour experience. Storm are the stormtroopers, because we've had 2 Star Wars films filmed in Jordan. Another niche program that we're doing is student travel abroad programs. Students are eager to learn about different cultures, foods, political landscape, and what a great opportunity to bring university students to Jordan. You also have a lot of opportunity in traveling by storytelling. And I've heard storytelling shared with a few of the ladies here. Jordan's got a great story, and those storytellers become ambassadors for Jordan. Most travelers that I've touched through my years with Expedia and TripAdvisor, especially coming from lands outside of the region, the Americas, South America, we exceed expectations. So those travelers go back to their homeland and they become ambassadors for Jordan and many destinations. So all of us are talking about the importance of traveling, creating stories, be courageous with our innovative and creative ideas. And it's all done through traveling. So I'm not going to take up too much time because we've had a lot of great contribution. I just want to say that travel is a need, a want. Post-COVID, everybody wants to get out and see the world and share their good stories. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mona. Naffa. And it seems like I have food on the brain today, but I've been invited to the homes of some Jordanian friends, and the food is ridiculously delicious, partly because it looks so attractive. You want to dive in, and it's just fantastic. So I know food is an important part of tourism in Jordan. Thank you so much. It's wonderful the work you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering.
We would love
Yes.
to have you in Jordan, and the Mediterranean diet is one of the healthiest diets in the world. So that's all part of the story as well. So think about coming to Jordan for your next travel show.
I would love to do that. I'm actually waiting for the IIPT event, which will one day happen, but I will come soon for sure. I really want to. So thank you once again. Now I just wonder if Abir Abu Sulayman is here yet. I'm not
Abir
so
was here.
Yes, she's here.
She was here. She was here.
Yes,
Is
yes,
she
I'm
here now?
Hello, hello.
Oh, would
Hi,
you
Abir.
like to speak now?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Abir Abu Sulayman. I am from Saudi Arabia. And I was very happy when I was invited to this beautiful webinar, because whenever I hear the word tourism for many people means traveling, visiting, experiences, new things. For me, tourism, it's the whole humanity things, knowing each other, having connection, learning experiences, benefiting from these differences from one country to another country. So for me, the word tourism is the humanity in itself. And when we say women in tourism, this is, you're giving it another flavor. The fact of women, I agree with my friend, my colleague Muna, when she said that the domain of tourism is in the Arabic countries, if I may say, was kind of a male domain mainly. The same was in Saudi Arabia. Things have changed. I have something to share. Let me check my, yes. I want to share this with you. So is it clear?
It is.
Yes, okay. So things have changed in Saudi Arabia because
I'm sorry, we are still seeing your screen as well. You should close your screen and just share the PowerPoint.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
The PowerPoint is in the background, you see? So you should close the other. You are sharing your whole screen of your laptop. That shouldn't be. Okay.
It's okay. It's okay, Reza.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm not, I don't know why it's not, I will just say it, sorry. So when we say tourism, Saudi Arabia, this is something that is not familiar because we are not known as a touristic country for a long time ago. People could come only whether for pilgrimage or business. But when we say tourism, this is something really new. It all started with our vision. We have a beautiful vision in the country called 2030. It started in April 2016. Where the vision of the country was not to focus on the petroleum as a main resource for the income, but for the tourism, and this was the big changes. And then we said to the world, welcome to Saudi Arabia. That was only in 2019. So it's something new for the whole country. And we had this e-visa, electronic visa, where people could have their visa for touristic visa for 90 days in 10 minutes. The aim of the vision is to have 100 million, which is not a small number, by 2030. How did I get in the tourism? Because we're not a touristic country. My background is education. I used to be a supervisor in the Ministry of Education. It all started with the UNESCO when I wanted to help in the registration of where I live now in Jeddah as a heritage site. So this was the beginning of my journey in the tourism. I wanted to help in the registration for the community, how do you call it, section And I learned more and more about the city. I started to ask people to come. I made some lectures, and this is where I discovered that I am a storyteller, and it became a passion for me to come and tell stories about the city. And I asked, that was in 2011, and I asked for, people said, why don't you become a tour guide? I said, yeah, why not? Especially that in the country, we're not obliged to have a tour guide as a main job. We can have it next to our job. So I asked for the ministry at that time. It wasn't a ministry even of tourism. I asked the committee to, how can I have a tourist guide license? And they say, well, it's not difficult, but the only problem, it's only for male. And that was a trigger for me. Why for male, not for female? They said, we don't know. It's not written in the law, but it's we only give it for male. So from that day, I started to ask for female to become tour guides. And I did many tours. I invited people, and of course, they were all volunteering to even my tours. I didn't, of course, charge for them. I wasn't licensed, but I wanted to prove that women can be great tour guides. And here, unfortunately, I hope I could show you this beautiful photo. I had my kids, and one of my birthdays, they made the most beautiful cake where they put the photo of the license, tour guide's license, with my photo, and it's written happy birthday to the best mom. And it's written my name and the language I speak, and a tour guide. So it was a way for them to say, it's okay, you are a tour guide even if you were not given the license. And from that day, I decided to continue without being mad or angry, because I was a tour guide. I only needed the license, which was normal to have it once we applied the vision. And it not only I became tour guide, but I am very proud to be a licensed national trainer from the WFTGA. And this was not only a dream for me. I didn't know that I could be a trainer, and from a beautiful organization, an amazing one that taught me a lot, and I'm still learning. So I became a tour guide in 2018 and 2017, and then I became a national trainer from the WFTGA, where I can not just train female, but also male. The number of female tour guides have increased in a short time. And 2 days ago, we had the amazing Messi coming to Jeddah. He was designed by the Ministry of Tourism, the ambassador of tourism in Saudi Arabia during the season. And we had our great Vice Minister, Her Highness Princess Haifa Mohammed, who received him, and she was his guide in the historical area. And it shows really how he was impressed by this visit. So we're not only on the ground as tour guides, but even we have female in a higher rank. And this shows the beautiful changes that my country is facing. We now even have 6 UNESCO sites in Saudi Arabia: Hijra 2008, Dar'iyya 2010, Jeddah 2014, Rock of Hail 2015, Al-Hassa, the Oasis 2018, lately Hima Cultural Area to 2021. And when we say women in tourism, we're talking about women empowerment, and numbers they speak. We have the female participation in the kingdom's workforce. The number has changed from 19% in 2016 to 33% in 2020. I don't have a recent number still, but I mean in a short time, number has doubled, and this is something really good. It means that really women are participating in the real changes in Saudi Arabia. And the World Bank they declared that Saudi Arabia has made big improvement globally in women rights at work since 2017, and this is something I'm really proud of. And this report was done by WGL.
Okay.
And here I had a chart that shows Saudi women in the workplace, and it shows that women, they participate in all domain with the small percentage, but when it comes to hospitality, this is how we call the tourism sector in Saudi Arabia, it comes to 40%. So women now in Saudi Arabia are 40% in the hospitality domain, and this is something really great. Just a few years ago, we didn't have even tourism. So we have tourism and real tourism, and we have women participating by almost 50-50. We're still at 40%, but this started only a few years ago. For me, who started 2011, which is also not a long time ago, that was maybe the big time, but since 2018, no. We have a very big involvement of women in the tourism sector, and especially that the country is huge. We're not talking about a small country. We're talking about a very big country that has amazing places to be visited, very different. Each region is different than the other, as if it's a different country. So now we're receiving guest tourists, especially after the Corona period, which was a catastrophe on the whole world, not only us. And we made a very quick recovery. The country did very well during Corona. We had strong restriction. It helped the country to recover quickly. It helped us to be involved in the tourism again, and in a very strong way. Last season was a great season. I don't recall I had a 1 day off because we had companies dealing with us the whole time. And I was very happy to know that some of the companies, I don't want to say most of them, they prefer to deal with the ladies. Well, I know, because for a long time they thought that Saudi women, our only place was at home, which is not true, but I don't blame them. Media was not nice with us as Saudi women. They used to put us in a certain frame, and they didn't want to change this idea or this stereotype. The nicest thing that happened to us is the tourism. So when guests came and saw us, in reality, they know who are Saudi women. We're tough women. We're strong women. We're participating, especially in this tourism beautiful revolution, if I may say. It's a positive revolution. We welcome the world. And when the tourists, they see us, I remember my first tour, I had a tourist who asked the tour leader, can I ask her a question directly, or I have to go through the tour leader? And I was like, no, sir, please ask me directly, and I will be more than happy to answer your question. But again, I don't blame any tourist for this behavior, because this is what they heard about us. But I am very happy that when our dear tourists arrive, they are the one who are changing this stereotype image. They broke this frame, and they are telling the rest of the world, Saudi Arabia is an amazing country. Saudi female tourist guide are superb.
Sulayman, it sounds like you are one of the driving forces of that. So thank you so much for revealing that. Definitely a lot more education has to come west about that. And so we thank you for that.
We are working with the WFTGA. We are teaching the program, and this is how we upgraded the level of our tour guides. And we have lots of connection with the WFTGA. And we're waiting for you to visit. I'll be happy to be your tour guide.
I'd love to. I would love that. Let's arrange that for sure.
Please.
Thank you. We have one final speaker, and talk about heroes with boots on the ground, we have another one, because we have Ms.Aslamova, who is in Chernobyl. Now, she's been involved since, I think, 2016. She's the Chief Deputy and Chief Guide of Chernobyl Tour and head of the Volunteer Center. And what they're trying to do is she's managing the mitigation of the informational and psychological consequences of the Chernobyl accident through tourism, changing the attitude towards Chernobyl from a place of a tragedy only to a place of huge victory. Now, that's a job. I would like to give the floor to Ms.Aslamova.
Good evening, everyone. Over here, it's the evening. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for inviting me here. And second of all, thank you for the introduction. You can imagine that I have quite a strange job for many people, because when they hear about Chernobyl and tourism in one sentence, they get surprised. But even more surprisingly, I'm going to talk right now about 3 different things that sound completely different. It's tourism, female roles, and the full-scale war that we have at the moment. So as all of you probably have heard, right now we do have the war between Russia and Ukraine in our country. And before that, we did have tourism, which we don't have obviously right now. Before the war, about 80–85% of all of the employees of our company, of Chernobyl Tour, were the females. It were the guides, the managers, the accounting department, even the employees of the information centers. And when the war started, just in the first few days, we changed from being someone in tourism industry into volunteering. We have opened a volunteering center at Chernobyl and started to raise and deliver help, first of all, to the armed forces and territorial defense. Then another field that we used to work in was help to the doctors. We used to find some medications, help them to find the educated personnel, and so on. We used to help the civilians, evacuation, humanitarian help, and so on. And also what we did was a very non-obvious thing, which was also connected with tourism. We were helping to find the information and deliver that to our army. The thing is that before the war, we used to have informational centers, tourist informational centers in the Chernobyl zone. You can all probably imagine what they used to do. They were selling books, providing information, helping to get the taxi, and so on. But those information centers did have the video cameras. And the thing is that Russian troops started to attack Kyiv region, which is the capital of Ukraine, getting from Chernobyl region. So through those video cameras, we were able to see and to count all the incoming troops and deliver this information directly to the army, because even when there was no electricity in the region, the cameras still did work. So that was another field of what we used to do. A surprising thing how touristic information centers changed to being the eyes of the army, if you can put it this way. And it turned out that tourism and volunteering are much alike, because first of all, you still need to think of the logistics. You need to think of some organizational things, how to organize people, where to find something. You also need to have the managers, people who find something that you need, people who call someone, people who, put it all together. And another thing, we're all used to having quite weird, sometimes, requests from tourists. So that's something that really did help volunteering, because sometimes requests could be obvious, like some food or some uniform or something like that. But sometimes, for example, we had a situation when we received a message asking whether we do have a contact of someone who has food for the horses, which is not very obvious when you have the war, but actually we did have. It was just, 2 minutes and they got connected. So that skill to find something which, the horn of the unicorn, really helps right now. And it also something that we have from our previous tourism experience. Another thing why we actually started to volunteer was because we did have this experience starting from 2020 when we had huge fires in the woods of Chernobyl area. And we also helped the firefighters to get some equipment. We helped them to organize food and so on. So we already had that base and this previous experience. And later we focused on helping civilians, on helping vulnerable part of the population, like elderly people, like women, kids, and so on. And we decided to focus on the region that we do know, which is the area around the Chernobyl district. That's the area between Kyiv and Chernobyl, just small villages and small towns, which were occupied by the Russian troops for over a month and were deoccupied later. So since we already knew this region, since we knew people in that region, we knew what they needed, we decided to focus on this. And another thing that we decided to do, which we realized was urgently needed, it was not only to deliver some humanitarian aid, it was also to provide people basic psychological help. Because again, they used to be occupied for over a month, and we already realized that, you know, working with the Chernobyl subject, we saw that after the accident of Chernobyl, the government did fix physical problems, mitigated the physical consequences of the accident. But unfortunately, no one focused on mitigation of the psychological and informational consequences of the Chernobyl accident. And basically, that's what we have been doing for the past 15 years. And we saw how much worse the situation gets when people have a possibility to live with their pain for all these years. So in this case, we understand that we also need to provide psychological and social help for those people as soon as possible so it doesn't get worse. So as I just mentioned, first of all, when we arrived to the region, we started to help elderly people and women. But to be honest, being a true feminist, I do believe that, you know, feminism is not only about some good things to be provided to women, that's about equality. So later we also focused on everyone in that region, because in many cases we saw situations when, for example, men were coming to us, talking to us, and they started to cry. But again, at least in Ukraine, you know, men are not used to crying. So we decided that we needed to help everyone in that region. So right now, what we do instead of tourism, we try to build such a situation when we do come to every small village, when we provide humanitarian help, we send the doctors to the elderly who sometimes are not able to travel somewhere to the doctors. And also we start to work with them psychologically, later providing them also help to get some jobs and so on. So we have a big plan of revitalization of this territory around Chernobyl, which suffered from the Russian occupation. And later on one day, I believe that this is also going to be a great base for tourism, because, you know, when we have all those active people in different villages who are willing to work, who are willing to move somewhere further, these people are also going to be able to help tourists that are going to come, because even right now, of course, we do not have tourists in Chernobyl. We do not have tourists in Ukraine, I mean, in regular sense, but a lot of people are contributing help to Ukraine. A lot of people are helping informationally, sending donations. A lot of people are also coming over to help. And we do have a lot of the requests already from these people to see who they help, to see these people. So we are quite sure that after the war, we're going to have a huge increase of tourism in Ukraine, and all those local village and town groups are going to be able to help to meet them. So it's going to be huge help for the region. And another really probably unexpected thing, how to connect the war and tourism right now, is another thing that we are doing. The thing is that starting from 2014, when we actually started to have the war in Ukraine, it's just that it used to be really localized in the east of Ukraine. So most of the people even didn't know that we have a war in Ukraine when they were coming to our country. But we did have the war for all this time. And also at the beginning of this war, people used to help sending donations. And in many cases back then and right now, there were situations when people could not be sure that they can trust the volunteers. They were not sure whether the help is getting delivered to the place they wanted to send it. So that is why what we did back then and what we suggest right now, we suggest these people, if they want to for example, to buy some equipment for the army or some humanitarian help for the civilians, and deliver it themselves if they want to. So in this case, they have a possibility to feel attached. They have a chance to see what's really going on in Ukraine. And so you can partly call it volunteering tourism, if you can say it's put it this way. But that's another great chance for Ukraine, I believe, because, Russian propaganda used to say that we're all bad people and that we're all Nazi and so on. So when people come over and visit us, they do see what's really going on in Ukraine, and that's a big informational help, I would say. So these are basically like two things that we are mainly focused on for the past months. And since we do have so many women in our country, and we do have so many women in our company, and right now in our volunteering center Chernobyl, I do believe that we are going to win anyway, because being women, we are sympathetic, and it's really important when you have the war. We have great organizational skills. We are used to understanding the needs of people and providing them with a possible help. Being women, we are used to stand for ourselves and for the weak. And also we are mainly focused and skilled at creating a safe and positive and caring environment for everyone around. So that's what, as women, we really need to do right now in Ukraine. And that's basically what we do. So in case if you have any questions, I'd love to answer those. If not, thank you for listening to me.
Well, thank you so very much for your information, Katrina Aslamova, and all the best with your work. You're doing something that not a lot of people would want to tackle, so we're very proud of you. Thank you. And for all of you that are listening or watching on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or on this Zoom, you can get a lot more information on tourismwebinar.com as well as womentourism.org. So both of those places are a wealth of information. It's a library, consider it a university of tourism, because all these PowerPoints, these videos, the contact information of all of the experts is there. And I would just like to make reference once again to a 20-minute film that went up on womentourism.org, which is called Tackling the Underrepresentation of Women in Cryptocurrencies in the Travel and Tourism Industry. Now, I would like to look at that myself because it's focusing on underdeveloped countries, but I think in developed countries, it's something that's not even understood. So that's a good video to watch. Last but not least, thank you to Reza Soltani, who does such an amazing job of culling this incredible group of people that give this great information on these webinars. So that wraps up our international perspectives on women in tourism for today. And we hope to see you on the next webinar. I'm B. Broda. Thank you so much.
Thank you, B. Thank you,
the best of days. Thank you
so much, B.
Bye for now.
Thank you.